Damn, that's fabulous. Alright, so today's video is on the concept of the alpha and beta male. These are terms that get thrown around a lot in this community, so I wanted to make a video to talk about this. So my theory is that alpha and beta, alpha males and beta males are static. It's a static term. In some situations in life, you're alpha. In other situations, you are beta. Your status as alpha or beta is not permanent as a human being as it might be as, say, a gorilla, right? Because gorillas just, the biggest and strongest is the quote-unquote alpha of the group. However, human beings, once again, are much more nuanced, and we have different metrics of success. So, for example, let's say, a pilot becomes incapacitated and there's a, wealthy businessman on the plane. People aren't going to be looking to him for leadership to land the plane, right? The alpha in that situation is going to be whoever has the most experience flying a plane. That's common sense. The businessman is going to sit down and, listen to what the person with the most experience has to say. Another example, let's say you have a neurosurgeon, right? A very high status, career. If a neurosurgeon is in the courtroom, is he going to represent himself if he's being sued? No, of course not. He's going to sit down, shut the hell up, and listen to the advice of counsel, his attorney who knows what he's doing. So when it comes to alpha and beta, these are very static terms. Because keep in mind, as human beings, there's different ways to accomplish the same goal, right? Human beings formulate strategies. Let's look at some examples. All right, let's look at Larry Bird and Spud Webb, two basketball players who were great at the game but had very, very different ways of getting wins, right? And I do apologize. I know this is starting to become a bit of a sports channel, but these analogies really help make the case. So yeah, we're doing this. All right, so Spud Webb, right, was known for being a very short player on the Atlanta Hawks at a whopping 5'7" and won the slam dunk contest in 1986. Whereas Larry Bird was 6'9", but Larry Bird didn't win games, by overwhelming people with dunks and plowing through people. Larry Bird was a very methodical player. He shot threes, he got assists, and he was a very fundamental player, whereas Spud Webb relied on his superior speed and, 5.5-foot vertical leap. Larry Bird, even being 6'9", could barely dunk. Larry Bird probably had like a 3.5-foot vertical leap. But the point is, there's more than one way to get the ball in the hoop, right? There's more than one way to win the game. Us as human beings, we have strategies. So who here is alpha? So Spud Webb won the dunk contest in '86, even at 5'7", and Larry Bird won a lot of three-point contests, so their strategies were very different. So using different strategy, right? You got to get really creative when you're 5'3", like Muggsy Bogues, in the mid-'90s. Let's look at how Muggsy Bogues changed how people had to play the game. And mind you, he was in a league with Jordan, Manute Ball, and Patrick Ewing. So they were no slouches.
Going on out on the basketball court.
From 1990 to 1994, only John Stockton accumulated more assists, a feat that Muggsy's teammates clearly appreciated.
It makes me run harder because I know that, hey, if I run, I'm going to get the ball. He's always told me, Joe, you run out, I will see you.
Muggsy's inspirational story has made him a fan favorite, especially for smaller fans. For them, he's a role model with whom they can easily identify.
Muggsy!
I really never thought about my height. Other people see me as 5'3". I just see myself as a person and not really any height. I just play my game and just play the best way I know how.
For all the obstacles that Spud and Muggsy overcame.
So how do you determine who's quote unquote more alpha? Dolph Lundgren, a lot of people would point to him and say he's an absolute specimen of a man, right? At 6'4", 240 pounds, has several degrees in physics, was a kickboxing champion in Europe, versus Bill Gates, who, let's just say, is not known for his looks or athletic prowess. But, yeah, you can say not just a factor of Bill Gates having a lot more money, but Bill Gates, I would wager, is a much more well-known household name than Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren, had 15 minutes of fame, in the late 80s, right, and early 90s, and you ask a lot of people, they don't really know who he is. His career was kind of short-lived, in the United States. Versus, Bill Gates is world renowned, and Bill Gates has overall more influence on society, right? I mean, Bill Gates has a lot more buying power. Bill Gates cannot make a lot more decisions that impact society, on a macro level. So who's quote unquote alpha? You could point to Dolph Lundgren, and people would say he's quote unquote genetically superior. But at the end of the day, Bill Gates, I think Bill Gates could hire security to just take care of Dolph Lundgren. So I would say overall Bill Gates is more powerful, but both of these guys are seen as elite in their own right. But there's more than one way to do it. So if quote-unquote superior genetics, such as height and strength and a strong jawline and, hunter eyes with superior vision, were really what was selected for, we would probably be similar to gorillas and chimpanzees, right? However, many times throughout history, it's actually, intellect and innovation that was selected for. I submit to you in the caveman times, right? You'd have the biggest, strongest cave Chad, who was probably selected for and reproduced the most until, some cave normie or cave cell invented a spear and then was able to fend off predators, much more easily. And then he became the quote unquote cave Chad, right? Obviously, he passed down his genes because there are people with smaller frames and, less physical strength here today, right? So even back then, right? Even when we were literally cavemen, it wasn't always about who was biggest and strongest. It was often about, who could manipulate the environment the best to survive. And that's why, so if we'd always selected the biggest and strongest, then we'd be much like, chimpanzees and gorillas today, which have, much greater strength than us. I mean, they said if a gorilla was capable of training, it could bench press like 4,000 pounds. And even an untrained chimpanzee, they said, could bench press about 400 pounds and rip someone's face off. And by the way, chimpanzees have actually literally ripped people's faces off. Like, I'm not kidding. If you don't believe me, just Google the story of Travis the chimpanzee. It's pretty sad and pretty tragic, but this woman who kept a chimpanzee as a pet, it ended up ripping her friend's face off. So yeah, Travis the chimpanzee. Quite a sad story. So someone on Discord sent me this, and I want to make sure that person gets credit. I believe it was Liberate. But before you go blaming your genetics for everything or saying everything's all genetic, just remember most people don't even come anywhere close to reaching their genetic potential. For example, had Michael Jordan sat on his candy ass and eaten candy all day, then a regular guy could have still beaten him at basketball. You got to remember, professional athletes, yes, they do have a natural genetic advantage. However, they also spend hours and hours, upon hours, more hours than you or I, have time, or the resources to spend into doing it. I mean, you do have the rare genetic freaks, who are just going to be good no matter what, but they still have to put in a lot of effort to get there. So when you think about it, okay, Chad is just naturally, good, right? And he's always going to be successful. However, if you're in the middle line there, you really just have to get yourself slightly above average. And I know this from personal experience. And, I explained this in more detail in the video, my gym maxing story, where in my teens I put, let's just say, a lot of time into, gaining weight and bulking up, and it paid off. And I can show you actually genetically how there's a difference there. And you can see my brother and I here, him on the left, me on the right. He, obviously we're cut from the same cloth, 99.9%, genetically similar. Whereas my brother, he's 4 inches taller than me, but as you can see here, right, he had a much better track career, okay? He ran much better times. He made a D1 team in college. The only difference here is I invested a lot more time into bulking up and lifting. His lifting numbers were not near where mine was. I mean, you can see the difference in our arms and legs here. But, obviously he hasn't reached his genetic potential when it comes to lifting. And I don't even know if I reached mine, because I forgoed even more weight I could have gained in trying to be a balanced track runner. But the point is, you don't actually know until you actually do it what your potential is. And most people aren't willing to actually put in hours and hours to reach that potential. The average American today is overweight, right? That's average. That's normal. So really getting above average, when you think about it, really isn't that hard. So, for me, you can say, a lot of people will tell me I'm genetically inferior and I'm a manlet and I should rope and all that. But, hey, I got myself to breaking a 5-minute mile. I also got myself to bench pressing 250 pounds. Both of those are definitely above average. So, I'm proud of that. And I put a lot of hours into that. So really, you don't know what your genetic potential is until you've put, hours and hours into it. The same way a lot of athletes don't. So before you go blaming genetics, just remember, most people don't even reach their genetic potential. So not only do people not reach their genetic potential a lot of times people are born, into the environment where they can't, right? How many people could have been professional athletes, but, they were born into a poor family and didn't have the resources or the time to practice or the facility to practice, right? So environmental expression actually plays, in my mind, even a larger role. But I don't want to get too far off topic of alphas and betas. So it makes me snicker a little bit when I see somebody say, that guy, he's a beta male, or this guy, he's an alpha male. The terms are static. You could be alpha at one thing. Okay, that guy might be alpha at basketball, and the other guy, dominates in the boardroom. There's really, human beings don't have, hard alphas or betas. It's very static. In one situation where you're alpha, and you can be beta in another. That's just how it is, right? Human beings are a very nuanced species. So you can't really say just by looking at somebody whether they're alpha or beta. I know plenty of guys, who are tall guys, right? And they, behave in a submissive manner, most likely due to upbringing or whatever the case may be. Are they beta? Their genes are good because they got the height. Some of them are even handsome looking dudes. So was that just, ingrained in them in their childhood? Why would they behave that way if they had all the reinforcement? So upbringing has a lot to do with it too. But no, I don't believe in human beings that there are hard alpha males or beta males. I think that's, pseudoscience. Even the guy who came up with the term alpha, the alpha wolf, right? If you look, he recanted it, years later. So just keep in mind, like in the examples we showed, right? There's more than one way to put the ball in the hoop, as Larry Bird and Spud Webb had shown us. And there's multiple ways to succeed, in life, whatever your goal may be. There's many ways to do it, and there's different strategies you can employ based on what you have or don't have going for you. Anyway, that's today's video, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys soon.